Hey everyone, this is CeeCee and thanks for joining me for another art journaling video. I'm not going to vlog this week, so I just thought that I would talk through this process video. But before I do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of explanations about today's project. It's in my Delusions art journal, and the past weekend and beginning of this week was very difficult for me creatively. Everything that I was doing was not working the way I wanted to, and so I decided to write down my thoughts on this journal page. And basically it says, every day I wake up giddy with excitement and the certainty of happiness and creativity. What happened yesterday no longer matters, and what might happen tomorrow has yet to be relevant. So it's kind of like a little mantra that I told myself every day. It kind of worked because in the end this project is all right. I like it. So I wrote the same thing on the right hand side because that was supposed to be the first page that I was going to do, and I used the Posca marker and I thought that was paint based, but I'm working on a gessoed surface and I wrote with the Posca paint or the Posca marker. Whatever I wrote with it kind of smudged when I added the collage page, so I was a little bit disappointed. I'm not sure why it smudged. I really thought it was permanent. And so I'm doing take two on the left hand side, and for this I have used the Uniball Air pencil, pen, which is one that I've been testing since last week, and I was under the impression that it was permanent, but I think it is permanent if you use it on straight paper and not a gessoed surface, although it does write really well over paint and gesso, but I don't think it's permanent on that surface, because you're going to see in a second, as soon as I add the collage page and start brushing it up, it smudges. So, but anyways, I just went with it because enough was enough, and I had started this page many times before, not just these two, but yeah, I've had other experiences prior to that. So these strips are left over from the prints that I cut for my patrons every month. It's just the way they are photocopied, and I'm always left with these bits and pieces, and it's good paper. It's 100-pound cardstock, so I've kept some of them and I decided to use them today. The idea was to build a cityscape with those, and I have used one of the strips as a level because I really wanted that. I really wanted a sharp, crisp line, so that's why I didn't use scissors to cut the strips, but I used my paper trimmer. You just saw that before. So I'm going to glue those down with collage page, and then I will paint them with different deco art paints, some Americana and some from their Media fluid acrylics line. So, okay, so while I'm doing this, let me talk a bit about, or continue the conversation about copyrights from last week. I've had a lot of suggestions from all of you guys about making my own stencils, and I did make my own stencils. You'll see that in this video. Some of you have suggested that I invest in either a Cricut or a Silhouette, because I know it cuts through different material. The problem is that I don't have a lot of space in my studio. In fact, it's very cramped right now, and I also don't really want to invest in another machine. I had a Cricut and I got rid of it because I wasn't using it, so I really don't want to buy another machine. And I had a hot knife from Walnut Hollow, and Eva Love Arts suggested that I buy different tips to cut the stencil material, because I had blank stencils from the Crafters Workshop already in my stash, so I was all set up. And so I did that, and it worked beautifully. I really enjoyed the process as well, so why not? I mean, it's a manual thing, but it's part of the fun, and that's how I decided to look at it. Now, to continue with that copyrights discussion, there is a way, I guess it depends on each brand, or each company have their own policy, I would say. So actually there was one designer that got back to me without me contacting her. Her name is Patty Tolly Parish. I've used her stencils many times. She has beautiful geometric stencils, gorgeous, and she sells them through iStencils. And she totally gave me permission to use her stencils and her stamps, which I also have, in my future projects and in anything that I want to resell afterwards, meaning that prints that are mechanically reproduced by a third party, much like Cité-des-Jeunes, which is what I use for my store. And that's where the problem comes from. A lot of some people have misunderstood what I had said, so I just want to clarify a little bit. The problem is not using the stencils per se, because you can use stencils as many times as you want. You bought the tool, it is yours to use, but it gives you kind of like a personal license, I want to say, to use it, but not a commercial license. And this is where it gets tricky. So you can do your projects, of course. You can use the stencils as many times as you want. You can even sell the original artwork that you've done with using those stencils and stamps. But you cannot, some designers do not want you to take that piece of work and have it mechanically reproduced for resale, which is what I was doing in my store. So, and again, it all depends on the designers. So if you have an issue with that, what I would suggest is that you contact the designer or the manufacturer and ask them if they have an angel policy, or if they have any restrictions on the use of their stencils and stamps. So, and I also have contacted another manufacturer's, a brand that is local here, and I'm going to get more info on that pretty soon. But yeah, that's the whole gist of it. So for me, making my own stencils is fun. Will I make a lot? I don't know. It depends on the time that I have. My workload is quite busy, so does it mean that I will stop using stencils and steps? No, because I have obtained permission already from one designer. I may get another permission from somebody else. I don't know. But we'll leave it at that for now. So, that cityscape, the first batch of colors that I was using, I wasn't totally happy with it. The blue that I was using was not the blue I was going for. So I pulled out this phthalo turquoise that I'm using right now. And this is also by Deco Art, but from their media fluid acrylics. And I love that color. It's gorgeous, and it's a little bit translucent. So, and of course, my good old trusty Stabilo black pencil to shade a little bit around the cityscape. And this is water soluble. And I think I've explained this before, but I don't add water to the line to smudge it. I use a baby wipe, and I just rub my finger on the baby wipe before I go over the line, and that gives me enough moisture to create the shadow that I'm looking for. I'm also very conscious about the fact that I've hidden most of my journaling, and that's done on purpose. I knew that before I started. And at one point, the whole journaling really will get messy, especially from up top. But it's okay. It goes with the style of the page. Oh, and going back to this copyrights thing, I just remembered there was also a question about using text paper, a question that was raised by me originally, and people were chiming in. It appears that you can use book text paper if the copyright is over, I think it's 78 years or something like that. Anyways, let's just say 80 years just to be on the safe side. As long as the copyrights have not been renewed, and this is where I kind of hesitate, because I do own a dictionary that was published and copyrighted in 1924, but it's a dictionary that is published every year, so I'm not sure about that. And the pages are so yellow, they're almost orange, and they're brittle, they're falling apart, but I'm kind of have a feeling that I can use that. I also heard that if you're using the text paper and you're modifying it by adding paint or hiding most of the text, altering it in a big way, that it really doesn't matter, that it is allowed as long as you can't, if it's a story and you can't read the full story, that there shouldn't be a problem. It is to be verified, and I have a feeling that you're gonna find different stories depending on where you read the information. So yeah, I would say err on the side of caution on this, but I don't think that anybody would come after you if you use especially torn pieces of text in your work. But anyway, okay, so here's my stencil. I'm very proud of it. It wasn't difficult at all to cut. The tool that I have cuts very well. And I'm using light molding paste, of course, to do the trees. And I forgot to push the button to record when I was adding the paint on the trees. I actually took the stencil and put, once the paste was dry, of course, here I'm showing that, and I put it over the existing trees, and then I just used a sponge to add the color. And while I was cutting it, I decided to have an overlay to those trees to act as either berries or fruits or whatever in the trees. So these are just little holes that I cut with the knife, and the trees are exactly the same trees that like the ones that I cut out. So I can just like place them over the trees and then sponge the color through little holes, circles. I love the effect. I think it's fun. And when I was cutting the stencil, the shape of the trees, I was left with masks as well, so I'll be able to use that also in future projects. So it's kind of like a 3-in-1 project, which is fine. I'm going over here the white circles again because I thought they were too light on these trees. It's also very liberating when you're using a tool that you've actually designed and made. It's quite fun. Here I'm adding some shadows underneath the tree, and here is what pulled everything together, because I kept looking at the page and something was not right. Although the trees are, well, they weren't really anchored to the border of the page, but by doing this border around the image, it kind of brought everything together and finished off the piece really well, and that is what was missing actually. So I wasn't happy entirely until I actually did that frame, and then it worked. So yeah, sometimes what works works only at the end. In the meantime, you worry for nothing. That's the lesson I took from this project. But let me tell you, I mean, since Saturday, I think I've been meaning to do this cityscape that I had in my head, and I've done several other pages. I will maybe one day show you the other tries that I've done, because they are in my journal. But yeah, anyways, I'm just adding some accents of gold to mimic windows with a very small, like a fine liner brush. And that's pretty much it. So I hope that you've enjoyed this process video. I hope that that I've clarified a bit about the copyrights issue. If you have asked me a question on that, I did my best to reply in the comments of my previous video. And that's it for now. I hope that you'll give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and I will see you later. Bye.